Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Justin Frederick and Ryan Gerdes. Let's just go ahead and text the word parent to 623-AZ-RECON. That's parent to 623-AZ-RECON. I love this story because it is something that the three of us have discussed as far as being savvy investors, wanting our kids to have that mindset to build wealth in real estate. And we've talked about the scenario. So we're going to set it up in a second. I'm just going to give the headline first for our listeners. Furious parents gave daughter $50,000 for her wedding, but she spent the money on a down payment and eloped instead. Ryan, we've had this discussion. I've got two boys, so the limited investment that I have to make in a wedding, unless my sons marry someone poor, which I'm encouraging them not to.
You can hear your son laughing in the back.
You really are a dipshit sometimes.
But, you know, I mean, you've got daughter. I mean, one day they're going to get married. Justin, you have a daughter.
I got two.
You got two. They're going to get married. It's a very expensive thing to do to put on a wedding these days. And Ryan, we've talked about it, that you would much rather see your daughter elope, take the money that you are going to, and let's just call it a donation, donate to her wedding, and go buy a house with her.
Well, I didn't necessarily say I wanted her to elope. I just said I wouldn't be surprised if she said, "What? You want me to pay this much for this wedding venue and the DJ and the food and the booze and the, name it," and say, "You know what? Let's just spend this money on a home or an investment, and go spend the weekend somewhere, Flagstaff, California, whatever, and to hell with everything else." So yeah, the headline kind of gives it all away. But what this girl did is she said, "You know what? You gave $50,000 to each of my brothers, and they for their down payment on their home, and because they had parents that paid for their whole wedding, you guys didn't have that financial burden, and so you gave me $50,000 for my wedding. No, I'm going to go use that how I want to use that, and that is as a down payment on a home, and then cut all the costs of the big huge nuptials and did that, just eloped instead." And so I read that and I'm like, all I can think about is my daughter. Like, I think that's exactly what Brooklyn would do if I did. If I said, "Here's $50,000," she'd say, "Screw that."
Well, what would Christine say? Because a lot of the times these weddings are not always about the bride as much as they're about mom.
Well, I think after that's a loaded question with a loaded answer, because Christine is so well aware of my point of view on money and weddings and et cetera. She would get that news and she'd say, "Yeah, that sounds about right." She probably would just say, "Oh, the wedding would have been fun, but I can't blame her for going over there and using that coin to put on a home." So I don't think she would be surprised. She might be a little bit upset, but I think the fact that just what we all think and what we all say and the way that we raise our kids is to constantly want to focus on the big picture, and I think that she'd be perfectly fine with it at the end of the day.
Justin, what about you and Sabrina?
Listen, all I got to think about is right now is I'm sure she wishes she would have known about the Home in 5 Platinum. She could have done both,
All right, folks, if you have no idea what Justin's talking about, go check out the episode previous to this one, and you're going to learn everything you need to know.
I before the Home in 5 Platinum, I 100% agree with this daughter, and I would be so proud of my daughter if she came up to me and said, "Dad, I'm getting married. Rather than throw in a ceremony, I like to use the funds to purchase a home," and I'd probably end up giving her more, just because, man, you're gonna spend my money wisely. I'm very proud of you. You've listened to me a little bit.
How old's your daughter?
15.
Well, I got a son that's 15. All right, so Justin, I may not have to buy them a home.
The hits just keep on coming.
He doesn't stop, folks.
No,
It doesn't
no.
stop.
Did
Your dipshittery, it knows no bounds.
did you guys have big weddings? And was it that big of a deal and that impactful for your marriage?
So I've been married twice. My first wedding we went broke and we had a loan for a long time. And I learned my lesson from that. The second marriage, my 15-year-old daughter was conceived by my ex-wife. And we wanted to throw a wedding for my daughter just so she could see the right way to do it. But we didn't want to spend much money on it. So we were originally going to do it in my backyard. And my wife took me on a wine tasting tour in Temecula. And
Now you got another kid.
we did. We got two. But
That's a twofer?
yeah. But we ended up doing our wedding on Martin Luther King Day. It was a Monday. And we got like a ridiculous price on it.
75% off. The
Oh
venue.
yeah, oh yeah. So it was like, why wouldn't we do this? And whoever wanted to come could come, and we ended up having a good group of people there. But it cost us less than $10,000 to do that wedding, and it was awesome.
What about you, Ryan?
So we did ours a little bit different.
Of course.
So we had a really, really, really small wedding on the creek up in Sedona. And we used my godmother's condo as the venue. And so that was free. And then we just fed everyone and didn't have any booze because we were in our early 20s and we didn't want our wedding to be about alcohol, which we knew all of our friends were going to go over the top with. So,
Isn't this surprising to hear from
so we did that.
This is the worst story I've ever heard in my
listen.
life.
Just listen, all right? So we did our wedding, and then a couple hours later, we kicked everyone out. And then 4 days later, we came down to the valley and threw just a huge rager of a reception. And so, yeah, a lot of people showed up to that. And, yeah, I think that between the reception and everything, we did it under $5,000.
Yeah, and my wife and I, we had the big wedding. And there was no alcohol either, but I barely remember it. It's not a lot that we talk about.
They didn't have alcohol, but you did.
We talk about the honeymoon, and definitely had some memories from it. I don't know if my in-laws, this would have been an offer on the table to go to my in-laws and say, hey, listen, you're going to invest X amount of dollars into this wedding. How about instead just do a private ceremony in the backyard, spend very little, but we'll take that dough and buy real estate? Because I just bought my second house prior to me getting married. And so really now the question is as parents, and I think we have two types of listeners right now. We've got parents that think we're jackasses, and you wouldn't be wrong. And perhaps we have kids. And when I say kids, young adults looking to get married, is this a wise option? Is this something that we should be advising the parents that are listening to this to give your kids that option? Because I've just seen, like I said, my wedding was a whirlwind. It was all about my in-laws, and it was all about my wife and so forth, and I just was there. I tagged along. And I had a good time. But
Well, you also needed him there to sign off on Mindy's permission slip, right?
But I have seen throughout the years, and I know the three of us can share the same experience, what real estate has done for us. Now that we're getting to the point where in the next 10 years, the three of us are going to be grandparents, right? And I know. And we're thinking about retirement, and we're doing the things that we do, and I think all three of us can say that we have achieved what we've achieved through, or at least partially through real estate. And this is the conversation that I want to have with my kids. I want to give them that option. I don't know if I could just say you can't, but hey, listen, we're going to invest X amount of thousands of dollars for this wedding. Buy a house.
No, like I said from the beginning, I think this is brilliant, and I applaud. I don't know what her name is, but yeah. So what she did is she went on Reddit And she said, hey, look, my parents are pissed that I spent this money on the down payment. What do you guys think? And I think that it was overwhelming. Everyone was like, yeah, no, you're right. You can spend that dough on anything that you want. And the fact that you did it on a home,
I couldn't be
that's
mad
some
as a
presence
parent.
of mind there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that is definitely an option that that if you're a parent or grandparent should throw on the table. And if you're a young bride or a young groom and you're excited about the wedding, take a step back, understand that in 20 years you're probably not going to remember a whole lot of it, that it was just,
And you may be on your third.
well, whatever the case may be, that a lot of that times that I'm not saying don't make the memory. I'm not saying that you can't put a price tag on those things, but you can still make those memories. And why not walk away with a very viable income-producing asset that's going to help you guys enjoy the actual marriage above and beyond just the wedding?
And in a lot of cases, a lot of these newlyweds are putting themselves in a hole to start their lives together with these weddings, because a lot of times a parent can't afford to give $50,000. Maybe
That's
they can
true.
afford 20. And then a lot of times the kids are left with the rest of the debts of the wedding, and we all know that $50,000 isn't as much as it was before. You could be starting off your marriage with $30,000 in the hole. I mean,
And what's interesting about that, and this is not to be funny or not to be a joke, but the leading cause of divorce is financial stress.
yeah,
Sex and money,
Sex
Yep.
and money.
two biggest reasons. And yeah, $50,000, man. If I'd had $50,000 to chuck at a wedding, 20 plus years ago, that'd have been a huge rager. Like I said, we got ours done for like $5,000. I'm over here thinking like, geez.
All right. Well, if you are a young adult thinking about buying your first home, or you're a parent of a young adult, we'd love to sit down. And it's one of the things that we're really good with is helping young people understand how money works, understanding how real estate works, and putting them on the path. Would love to have that conversation with you. All you got to do is text the word parent to 623-AZ-RECON. That's parent to 623-AZ-RECON. All right, I want to turn the conversation in a little bit of a different direction. One of my concerns, and I can't figure out what age is what generation. We got Gen X, Gen Z, we got millennials, we got, one day we're going to run out of letters in the alphabet,
yeah.
right? But one of the concerns that I have about this generation of future homeowners is not seeing the value of homeownership, of being okay with this concept. I'm just going to rent. I want to live downtown by all the action. And I don't know whether their parents are not sitting down with them or where it's coming from. But what is our message to young adults right now?
Big picture. I mean, it's really easy to get caught up in all the excitement, all the noise, and all the things that because younger people are spending a lot more time on social media than the older folks, and so that you're getting a lot more advertisements, thoughts, politics, just all these things thrown at you, and you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna say, none of that mattered. No, like, why did I give so much of a crap about looking this way or thinking that way when that's not really who you are? And I know that money isn't going to solve all of your problems, but it's going to provide some freedom for you so that you don't have to take a shitty job, so that you don't have to be around people you don't want to be around. You get to it. There's a saying, and I know this might be a little bit too much, but the only way that you're ever going to get fuck you money is to, start making it. And then you can start turning around and saying fuck you to people that I don't want to do that. I don't want to be around you. You get to have that freedom. And the only way that you get there is by starting off earlier in life.
All I can think about right now is the Netflix Tom Brady roast. Fuck you, Tom.
I got two guns.
That's one of the best things I've seen in a very long time. Justin, what is your message to young people?
So when I was young, I would always be like, you don't know my life. I'm different. I'm young. I have plenty of time, and that time just flies by. Before you know it, you're in your 30s. You have kids, and you don't have the funds to really figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to grow up and how you're going to retire, and what a better way to get started with investing than buying your own home. It's your home, and it's fixed. You're not having to. I must have moved 20 times in my 20s, and just keep jumping around from house to house. And that would have been fine if I was buying my own houses, but I was paying other people's rent, and there was times where I didn't want to live with people. If it would have been my house, I could have kicked them out and got somebody else to rent with me. But if you've seen what your parents have done, and maybe talk to your parents about, how much did you buy the house for? What did you sell it for? And just asking those two questions right there, you're going to find out how much money they've actually made on their investments and what period of time it took them to make that money. It's much better. I know when you're employed, you want to have a 401k, and yeah, that's great. But I guarantee your 401k is not making money as fast as your home is, unless you hit some sort of crazy stock, which typically you're not going to have those options within your 401k. But it's such an important piece, and it can level you up so fast in life. Not only to go from house to house or possibly having multiple houses, but it can also help you with other things such as debt or furnishing your house, maybe remodeling your house, things like that. The equity that builds in your home just allows for so much financial freedom.
Yeah, and I would just add to both of your points, and I think the challenge with Ryan with having the big picture is how, when I was 27 years old, how do I have that big picture? I'm 27 years old. I've got different needs and desires at that time, and what I didn't know is there's nothing wrong with being a good person, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to do good things in the world and being a good human and being a good citizen. But just because you're a good person doesn't mean money is just going to come your way. I mean, money doesn't come to people by accident. And I think, I think for a young adult is, sit down and we'll talk about the big picture. I know it's impossible for a 27 or a 28-year-old to imagine what their life is going to be like when they're 75 and 80 years old. But what are the things that you like? Do you like travel? Do you like cars? Do you want kids? And really just kind of breaking that down and not doing a vision board type thing. But if vision boards are for you, go for it. And then you ask that question: how money doesn't come by accident. And what the three of us have learned is, money comes through hard work, but it has been a lot easier because the three of us each at one point bought our first house.
Yeah, I mean the proverb is if you want something that's outside of your means or outside of your budget, you don't work harder. You don't go and say, oh, I'm going to cut these expenses because you know that you're going to need them. You know that you still need the roof over your head or whatever. You buy an investment that's going to pay for that.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can get ahead of that, and if you can, when I'm talking big picture, I'm not even talking 75. I'm talking, what does it look like a year or two from now? Right. Because we've seen real estate, do some big things in a very short amount of time, multiple times in our career. So it's not like, well, who knows if I'm going to be alive in 25, 30 years or whatever. It can happen pretty quick if you're making smart decisions with it.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, if you want to see if you want something that's outside of your means, invest. And then once that starts performing at a rate that can allow you to buy that, whatever it is, new car, RV, boat, whatever, then you don't have to worry about that investment is going to keep producing for you even after you're tired of that boat.
Yeah. Well, and taking this episode full circle, we started out with reading a headline: Furious parents give daughter $50,000 for her wedding, but she spent the money on a down payment and eloped instead. Good for this girl.
Love it.
I would have no issues if my kids came and said, "Hey, you gave me $50,000 for a big wedding, and we decided to buy a house, and these parents need to take a chill pill." They should be proud. I think they should be. They
should be
raised.
proud.
They raised a smart young lady.
They
here.
did their job.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. If you'd like some more information, if you are a young adult or anyone looking at buying their first piece of real estate, would love to walk you through that, guide you through that, help you understand the investing principles. If you're a parent of a young person, and we do this all the time, where we have a lot of parents and grandparents who made a lot of mistakes over the years when it came down to real estate, and would love for us to sit down and have a conversation with their kids or their grandkids. We'd love to do it. All you got to do is text the word parent to 623-AZ-RECON. That's parent to 623-AZ-RECON.